Our very first storyteller for this evening reminds me of that old spiritual song, just like a tree standing by the river. She's one of the anchors of our community, one of the co-founding members of the Association of Black Storytellers, the Chicago Association of Black Storytellers, and is also one of the membership chairs for the National Organization of Black Storytellers, which all night long, I'm going to remind you, is coming to Chicago in November. Mama Edie is known as the Spanish-speaking, signing, singing, dancing storyteller. The speech pathologist with story and gift. And we want you to welcome her with your hands clapping together as she comes to the stage to open up our evening of storytelling. Y'all, we are in for a treat. Somebody say, Mama Edie! Mama Edie!
Isn't he amazing? Now, but you have to watch out for folks like Opa, because see, this is a brother who also won the title from the National Association of Black Storytellers of the Liars Contest. So see, you know, you gotta look out for people like him. Oh gosh, I'm so glad you're here, and we are glad we're here. And we want to celebrate tonight through story, but sometimes in the midst of our celebration, we need to be reminded of some very important things that we need to focus on from time to time as well. And we know that we're living in a time where the violence has gotten pretty frightening here in Chicago and around the country and certainly around the world. And in some cases, the bottom line is simply greed, just pure and simple. There are some people who are like overgrown adolescents. They haven't learned the concept of enough. And in some cases, it's people's differences that are keeping us apart. So I want to share with you a story about the most famous spider in all of Africa. Now, does anybody know who that spider was? Now, it wasn't Itsy Bitsy, and it wasn't Teeny Weeny. Who was that spider?
Anansi.
Oh, yeah, you know it was Anansi. Well, now, you see, one thing that a lot of people don't know is that Anansi had a wife. Yes, it did. He was married. Yep, he was an honorable man. And they had 6 children. Yes, they were busy little spiders. They had 3 boys and 3 girls. Now, I'm going to need you to help me to tell the story, okay? And the way you do so is to remember the names of the family members, all right? So now, Anansi's wife's name was Aso. What was her name?
Aso.
And then they had 3 boys and 3 girls. Now, the first girl's name was Sea Trouble. What was her name?
Sea Trouble.
The second girl's name was River Drinker.
River Drinker.
And the third girl's name was Cushion. Yeah, you know that big old fat fluffy thing? And the 3 boys, the first boy's name was Road Builder.
Road Builder.
The second boy's name was Game Skinner.
Game Skinner.
And the third boy's name was Stone Thrower.
Stone Thrower.
Okay. Now, this is what happened. You see, one day, Anansi had to go to another village to take care of a little business, don't you understand? And you know how it is when you get together with your buddies and everything, and you say, oh, hey, man, how you been? What's been going on? Well, they were having such a good time after he took care of his business that time was moving on and on and on, and he began to lose track of time. Now, this is significant, since the title of this story is how the moon came to be in the sky. So at this time, there was no moon glow. So he said, well, you know, y'all, I got to go. Y'all just keep on trying to keep a brother around, but it's all good. And so they said goodbye, and Anansi went walking through the forest, but it had begun to get dark. And it got so dark. I mean, it was so black, he could barely see his hand in front of his face. And so as he was walking through these tall grasses and trees, trying to make his way, suddenly he looked on the path in front of him, and he saw a great big white ball of light just lying there, glowing in the darkness. And he said, wow, what is that? what it's for. So he went on over to that ball of light and he picked it up. He said, I'm taking this home. And so as he went on down the road, the light was so blinding that he lost his footing. He couldn't see exactly where he was going, and he slipped down the side of a riverbank, and a great big old fish came along and swallowed Anansi up. And there he was, standing inside of the belly of this fish, still holding that ball of light. Well, when he looked around and he said, guess all this old ball of light is good for now is seeing the inside of this beast I found myself inside of. Lord, if anybody can get me out of this mess, I'll gladly give them this old ball of light. Well, meanwhile, back at home, Anansi's wife, whose name was... What was it? Oh, yes, it's okay. Aso said, children, you know, I'm afraid something terrible must have happened to your father because he's so late coming home and, you know, he's always on time for dinner. Well, one of the daughters stepped forward. She said, Mama, I think I can sense what was wrong. Who do you think that daughter was?
See trouble.
See trouble. She said, Mama, I can see him now. Daddy was on his way home, but he slipped inside of a riverbank. Oh, Mama, a big fish came and swallowed him up. We've got to do something quickly to save our father. Well, at that point, one of the sons stepped forward. He said, you know, what we need is a path so that we can get quickly down to the river's edge. He said, I can take care of this one. Who do you think that son was? Y'all good. I think y'all must have been there. So anyway, so Road Builder took some bricks and he laid them down in the ground and off went the little spider family through the forest. When they got to the river's edge, everything was so black. All they could do was hear the sound of the water swish, swish against the shore. Well, one of the daughters stepped forward. She said, you know, it's just too much water out here. I got to move some of this water out of the way. I think I can take care of this one. Who was that daughter?
River Drinker.
Child, don't you know River Drinker came along. She stuck her lips inside that water and went and sat down. Well, at that point, one of the sons came forward. He looked out into the now dry riverbed against the dark horizon, and he thought he saw the shadow of a fish jumping up and down, jumping up and down. He said, I bet that's the fish that's got our father. I'm going to take my knife and go on in there and get him out. Who was that son? Game Skinner. There you go. Well, Game Skinner went in there and he started wrestling with that fish. And he was wrestling and wrestling. He finally cut that fish open and out popped Anansi, still holding that ball of light. Oh, man. When he finally got up and he was walking up the side of the hill, and his legs were a little wobbly at this point, and he was trying to make his way up the hill, and he was so glad to see his family, but then all of a sudden a big bird came flying from out of the sky, swooped down, picked Anansi up, and began to fly away. Oh no, poor Anansi. Well, don't you know, one of the sons stepped forward, and he looked up in the sky. He said, I'm going to get that bird, I'm going to get that bird. Who do you think that son was?
Stone thrower.
Child, don't you know Stone Thrower picked up a great big old rock, put it in his slingshot, pulled it back, and ping, knocked that bird upside the head, and Anansi came falling, but he was going to break his fall. Well, one of the daughters came forward to do that. Who do you think it was? Because she said, I got him! And Anansi landed gently upon the back of his child. Well, when he got up and kind of got his breath a little bit, he said, man, oh man, am I glad to see y'all. He didn't say, am I glad to see you? He said, am I glad to see y'all? And so he said, you know, I'm so happy that you came to help me in my time of need, but I'm a little bit confused because you all work so well together. He said, but you know, ever since you've been small, you've argued and you fussed and you fought about your differences. Sea Trouble thought she was the only one who could see the way things really were. Road Builder thought he was the only one intelligent enough to know how to build a way. You always argued about your differences, but look at you now. You've used those differences as your source of strength. And with it, you've saved my life. And I'm so very proud and grateful. But you know, I still have a problem. Because I had promised that whomever got me out of this mess, I'd give them this ball of light. But you've all helped me, so I don't know what to do. And so his wife, whose name was she said, I tell you what, why don't we pray to the sky god? And Anansi thought that was a good idea. So he looked up and he said, Father God, tell me, what should I do? How do I share this light? And the sky god said, I tell you what, because you came to me, your father, in your time of need, I'm going to help you out with this one. You take that ball of light and toss it on up here to me, and I'm going to put it in a place where everybody can enjoy its light. And so, all together, the members of the spider family came and they supported that ball of light and they began to lift it up into the sky. So those of you who are able, I'd like for you to stand right where you are and hold the hand or hold on to the arm of somebody. And we're going to raise our light up into the sky. Because, you know, we all have a light, don't we? We all have a light. And sometimes we don't always know just what that light is. Sometimes we're not even sure that it's in there. But it is. And so on the count of 3, we're going to lift our light up into the sky. Are you ready? Yes. Here we go. On my count. 1, 2, 3. That ball of light went up into the sky and got stuck there. And don't you know, you can sit down now, don't you know that they started calling that light the moon? Yes, they did. And then as Anansi and his family were walking through the forest that night on their way home, a light and gentle rain began to fall. And for the first time, they saw Moonglow dancing on the raindrops. Such a beautiful and peaceful way to go. So I share that story with you to remind you that we all have a light inside, and sometimes it's a bit obscured, and sometimes we don't know how to bring it out. So every now and then, just remember the saying to be still, and know that you are God's. I want to share with you that Kucha and I are not wearing shoes up here tonight. And we are doing so for a couple of reasons. But one of the reasons that we're doing so is that we are giving honor to Brother Blue, who was one of our elder storytellers from Boston. And he is now among the ancestors. And we give him thanks and praise in reminding us that when we speak truth, the ground that we are upon is hallowed ground, is sacred ground. So make sure that as you talk to each other, that every place you go, every step you make, that you can see it as hallowed ground. Thank you.